Named for the mountain range that runs through the southeastern European peninsula, the Balkans comprises a handful of nations clustered around the very center of Eurasia's cultural, political, and religious compass. For all of recorded history, the Balkan region has been awash in migrations, invasions, and settlements, resulting in a settled mosaic of cultures, languages, and religions that belie the fact that this region's peoples are connected in more ways than some of them might like to admit. Yet this land of rugged, verdant beauty harbors deep and sometimes volatile passions, expressed in pockets of ancient poetry, lore, and sometimes war, affecting its Roman Catholic and Orthodox Christians, Muslims, Jews, Roma, and other ethnic and religious communities. Yet one may still speak of Balkan culture, with its art and architecture, literature and music, dance and foods. As someone with close family, religious, and professional ties to the Balkan region, I just found it unthinkable that CU students and faculty should not be at least conversant in discussing one of the most crucial human crossroads in the world. So I'm grateful for the presidential initiative and the benefactors and the support from the Global Engagement Office that helped make this all possible.
So it may seem like kind of an odd thing that a 20th century historian of the American West would decide that a call for an immersion trip to the Balkans would be exactly the thing to do. I teach about the 20th century in the United States, but much of what happened in the 20th century in the United States, most of our foreign policy, our domestic changes, came out of our responses to conflicts that brewed in the Balkans. It's where World War I started. It certainly was a center for conflict in World War II. The interesting Cold War history of the Balkans, it was a slightly different configuration of communist states. I mean, these are all things that, again, I teach about and I understand their influence, but I think going to the place where it all happens is a very different kind of knowing. And not being the expert and being the student all over again, and being able to ask questions and my plan for the trip is really to close my mouth and open my eyes and ears and see what people have to say about this region that I've wondered so much about.
I think I would really like to get a more rounded, holistic understanding of Balkan culture and people and history. I think I've heard a lot of maybe one-sided historical narratives about the Balkans, and I'm really excited to be able to visit the countries and visit with the people and see some similarities and differences throughout the region, especially getting to go with a group of academics that's sort of my comfort zone and my safe space, and I'm really excited to go with a group of like-minded people that I could have in-depth discussions about what we've seen and what we've learned and questions we have. So I'm really excited to be able to experience a region that I've been interested in for a long time but have never been quite sure how to jump in and visit.
The Balkan immersion began with a symposium of Balkan scholars, which I was able to organize for the benefit of the Creighton contingent. Brought together in connection with my professional ties to the University of Bucharest, the symposium, called Currents and Cross-Currents, involved 10 scholars representing 6 different Balkan nations, as well as Poland. The level of scholarly engagement and social integration among the symposium presenters and with the Creighton group was extraordinary. I was quite pleased with the result.
In Bulgaria, through personal history. First of all, because that was very interesting. Also for me, I found it out 3-4 years ago.
That the different scholars working from a Turkish scholar, a Greek scholar, different scholars in Romania, all these from different contexts. It was a much richer discussion than I anticipated and raised lots of questions. And I think one of the real gifts of this is that it reminds us to be very careful about how we conceptualize things. I think Miško, he was a scholar working on the Holocaust, was what he was trying to do in his own work. He's a refugee from Serbia, which is real important to me in terms of the climate refugee issue. But he's trying to say that, you know, we talk about the Holocaust as these great statistics, the number of people died and this many people in this camp, and he's trying to retrieve the stories of these people. And I think that was also, as I reflect going back, an incredibly important recognition as we move between our concepts and then particularity. Our concepts bring together lots of different ideas and try to make it all clear. And this region and its great diversity constantly requires us to go back to the particular.
This has been a lot. I've learned so much about the culture, the religion. I've learned a lot about myself. I thought I understood some of what was happening in the Balkans, but my knowledge is such a tiny piece of the overall story and the complicated history, and I think as a scholar, I have some things I need to go back and research.
So I was really surprised about the historical complexities of the different ethnic groups and interactions that still exist, and I think just kind of critically evaluating everything that's been going on here in the Balkans will really help me understand my work with different groups in the Omaha area and in the community with different refugee populations, and I have a lot to think about still after this trip.
Here in the Balkans, we cannot live without history.